Good afternoon to the newest members of the Trident family, and welcome to your first day of class. I'm Marketing Communications Manager Daniel Sloan, and on behalf of Trident, I want to say thank you for taking the next step in your educational journey with us. New students often have a lot of questions, and we are here to help. As a way to ease you into our unique student-centered model, we've designed this webinar that will cover all the areas vital to success in your chosen program. We are joined by two presenters today. First, I'd like to introduce Dr. George Delgiero. He joined Trident in 2010 and currently serves as a full-time instructor and course coordinator in University College. During his time at Trident, he has worked closely with students in a variety of roles, including academic advising, financial aid, and academic probation support services. He earned a PhD in educational leadership from Trident and has received numerous awards during his time at the university, including honors for communication and collaboration and for student motivation. He is a passionate advocate for student success. Next, we have Michael Minnaugh, who's been with Trident since 2017. He is currently a project manager in the Center for Student Success, overseeing the online orientation course and teaching Tux 101. He has over a decade of professional experience in education, holding roles such as elementary school teacher, admissions advisor, academic counselor, and finance manager. As an advocate for positive student experience throughout the entire path to graduation, Michael enjoys working closely with students and helping them to achieve personal and professional goals. Michael earned a Master of Business Administration entirely online, and he holds bachelor's and master's degrees in English from John Carroll University. As an online student balancing a family, children, full-time work, and more, Michael understands that being an adult student requires an ability to be flexible and manage time well. Just a couple notes before we begin today's session. Although a portion of this webinar has been pre-recorded, you have the option to ask questions or make comments at any time. Just take a look at your screen, scroll to the right, you'll see a control panel. Go about halfway down, type in your question, and hit submit. We're all in the background right now, Dr. Delgiero, Michael, and an academic advisor who are here to help out and answer questions as they come up. We will have a live Q&A session at the end of the presentations where we'll be able to answer everything you have in real time. Now, I'm going to hand things off to Michael to get things started. The floor is yours.
All right. So first off, I want to say a big welcome to everybody to Trident. We are very excited to have you here, and we're excited that you're here on this first day of class webinar. You're already going to get some of that special sauce to help you move forward and be successful here at Trident. So what we're going to talk about today, a couple tips for success. That'll be my presentation. We'll move into academic writing with Dr. Delgiero, and then Danny will get back into career networking after we're done, and then we'll get to questions. So let's move on to the next topic and to some tips for success here as an online student. So briefly, we're going to touch on all of these things here. These are very generic aspects of a successful online student, really any student at all. So we will touch in that a little bit more detail, but you want to be confident, ask questions, especially some of those new students that have never been to online school before. We want to make sure that you're comfortable and you know where to find things. So we don't know there's an issue unless you ask. So please let us know. There are lots of resources here that we'll talk about that are available to you if you do have questions. Know that you're supported. That goes hand in hand with what I just mentioned. We have lots of resources and people here to help you out when you get stuck on something. Get to know your professors and your peers. They are a great resource when you're in the classroom and you have questions about your specific subject in your class. They can be a great resource to you. Time management, that is a big one as an online student. That is something that you need to really start thinking about and planning. Today is a great day to do that. The fact that you're here alone tells me that you are taking this seriously, and that is something that you want to take seriously, is time management. We'll talk about your long-term academic planning, and then just with everything in life, you got to have fun. I know that Danny had mentioned it's a little bit of a different time that we're in. There's still a lot of joy in the world. We got to make sure we're having fun with everything we're doing. So let's talk a little bit more in detail about some of these aspects here on the next slide. So the first thing that I want to talk about that's very near and dear to me is time management. As Danny mentioned in my introduction, I am an online student. I actually just finished a program, so I guess not technically anymore, but I'm looking to continue on with my education. I'm also a father of 2 children. I work, as has been mentioned. I know that many of you out there are here in the online world because you all wear different hats and you all have different responsibilities that you have. Online schooling is a great option for those that can be flexible, and you can fit that time in your schooling into those moments in your day that you can fill them, and you can get a lot from that. But that time management plan is something that you need to be successful. So a couple of things that we want to talk about. Everybody's time management plan is going to be a little bit different. So create one that is going to work for you. When I was a student, what I found most helpful was setting aside specific times of the day, a couple of days a week, that I would go to school. I would treat it just like I was, going to class at a brick and mortar institution. So Tuesdays and Wednesdays in the evenings, and then Saturday mornings were my class time. So my family they knew that was something that it was important to me, and I was able to go into the office and I was able to do the work that I need to do for my class. So whether that is something that you need to do, or some students will log in every single day just so they're in the flow of getting into the classroom, and then they get more comfortable, especially those new students that have not attended online classes before. You can poke around, you can get used to that flow of being in there every day, and then you're going to find that rhythm that is going to work for you. But I definitely would consider setting aside specific times and days that is going to work for you. Now, with the online school, we know that holidays, weekends, even with brick and mortar school, there are holidays, birthdays, things that come up in the middle of classes. So it's great that this offers you that flexibility, that you can still attend those things, you can still have a weekend, you can still have family time, but you can plan around that. So you know what is going to happen in your life in terms of schedule for the most part, if it's a birthday or a holiday that you're going to go on vacation for. So you can schedule time around that. You can do a little bit of more work ahead of time, or you can do a little bit of work after when you're done. So it's a great way that you can fit this stuff in to your life and still get your degree. Some people thrive on list making. That is my wife. So she is someone who wakes up every day and she writes down a list of 15 things she wants to accomplish in the day. She gets a lot of joy out of crossing those off. So maybe that's you. Whatever that time management plan is, it is definitely something that is the key to success as an online student. What I tell all of my students is that the beauty of online school is that you can go to classes whenever you want, but you can also not go to classes whenever you want. So when you develop that plan, you're able to hold yourself accountable to be there when you need to be there. Built into that plan needs to be some support and some flexibility too, because we all know that something is going to happen. Plans don't work out every single time. So if that happens, don't get discouraged. You need to let your professors, your advisor, your advising staff know, so we can talk about some options on how to, maybe work around that plan and be flexible. So let's talk on the next slide about some of those other resources that are here to help whenever that plan does not work. So many of you have already met your admissions advisor. That is the person that is your point person from the onboarding process. Many of you may have also met your finance advisor. That is the person that's going to help you with anything financially related, how are classes paid for, etc. If you have not met them yet, the third piece of the puzzle is your success advisor. That's kind of your academic team that you have available to you. Your success advisor is your academic advisor. They're with you through the first day of class today until graduation. So any sort of questions that you have about classes, when you're going to graduate, any of that stuff, that is geared toward them. They're going to keep you on track for your program. So like I said, if you have questions about what classes, how many classes, anything like that, what transferred in, if you're transferring in credits, that's going to be questions that your success advisor will be happy to help you with. And finally, cannot forget professors. I've been hearing so many things from a lot of my students about the amazing, amazing professors that we have here at Trident in terms of the support that they offer. They go above and beyond to help their students. So if there is an issue that you're having, maybe you're falling behind because that time management plan isn't working, maybe you have to take care of your kids because they have school too and they're at home learning. You know, you want to communicate those issues that you're having with your advisors and your professors. We want to make sure that we help you if you are having challenges, but we can't help any problems that we don't know. So please, if you are having issues, reach out to somebody, your academic advisor, your admissions advisor, your professor. We want to make sure that you know that you are supported here at Trident, and we are happy to help you get through that. Besides the the personable people that we have here, there's also online resources that are available to you. So a couple of things that we'll mention briefly. The writing workshop and the writing style guide. After I'm giving my presentation here, Dr. Delgiero will speak a little bit more in depth about academic writing and the importance of that as you go throughout your academic progression as a student. Along with that, there are math assistants. So Math 95 and Statistics 95 are some kind of bridge classes that you can take if you want to polish up your skills. I got my undergrad degree in English, so those would be two classes that I would definitely be going into if I need to brush up a little bit of math skills. Along with that, there is a website that we do have available that we've just developed that does offer support on a wide range that Daniel is going to share with you in the chat if you'd like to check out. That is also another online resource that is available to you that offers resources ranging from some of these support systems to how do you reset your password. So any sort of technical issues is a great resource that we've just recently developed. If you're not able to reach anybody, maybe it's 2 in the morning and you're trying to get some help, that is a great resource that is available to you as well. Let's talk a little bit further about some additional inside the class resources that some students have available to them, depending on the course that they're in on the next slide. So in specific courses, there are additional support that you have access to through tutor.com. The courses that are listed here are English 101, Math 101, 102, BHS 220, Operations Management 300, Finance 301, Tux 101 and 301. A lot of these courses we found that students struggle in, so we want to give a little bit of additional help inside of these classes, just to bridge any gaps that you may have between the content in the course and maybe something's not clicking. So this is 24-hour a day tutoring help for these specific classes. You'd access this inside of those specific courses. So if you're scheduled for an English 101 class in the future or Math 201, you can log into that more section in the class, and you'll see that link for free tutoring. That only appears in these specific courses, but it's a great resource if you do need some additional help. So let's move to the next slide. We'll talk about something that's very near and dear to my heart. That is the orientation. So as Daniel had mentioned, I am the orientation facilitator. So you may have seen my face or my name commenting back to some of your posts. If you have been in there, checking out the course and seeing what a mock classroom is like. If you have not, I highly recommend it. I know that today's your first day of class, but you have access to the orientation for 6 months. It is a great resource to help essentially build confidence. It's a mock class. You can't do anything wrong, so you can click and you can submit things, and you're going to build that confidence to be able to navigate the classroom. Finding where resources are is half of the battle as an online student. So if you have that already under control, then you're stuck with the content, that's the part that's the fun part, the engaging part. So we don't want you to be thinking, where do I go to find my grades, or where do I go to access how to email my professor? You can find all that information inside of the orientation. We found that students that do participate in the orientation are far more successful than those that do not. So if you have not yet, I definitely recommend it. I look forward to seeing your threads in there and replying back and getting to know you a little bit more. But yes, you'll have access to that for 6 months as a student. So let's move on to the next slide here, and we'll talk about what to do now. So we've mentioned a few things in terms of successful tips, ways to be successful as an online student. So what do we do now? We want to take that first step and log into your class. As I mentioned before, I know that you may be having some technical issues. Hopefully that is resolved at this point, but if you have not logged in yet, I highly recommend after this webinar is over to log into that first class and introduce yourself. You don't need to wait. You can go in and be that first person that starts the initial thread to introduce yourself in the classroom. So I highly recommend that you do that today. Inside that classroom, you'll see a class list under your communications tab. You can email your professor. You can introduce yourself and tell them a little bit about yourself in a one-on-one format. Send them a direct message. See if there's any sort of, maybe you have something coming up that you need to troubleshoot in terms of time management. That's a great way to do that, especially on the first day of class. It shows that proactivity. If you do have questions, we want you to ask them. As we mentioned, there's lots of people here that want to see you succeed, so please let us know what we can do. We can't solve problems if we don't know that they exist. So let us know if you are having any sort of issues. As we mentioned before, develop that time management plan. That's going to be individualized to you, but you definitely want to make sure that you are working in a way that is working for you. Make sure it's flexible, but still allows you to maintain that work-life balance. That's definitely what we're all about. And then finally, check in with your advisors as you need to. So you may be hearing from your success advisor or your finance advisor throughout your time frame here, just to make sure that things are okay. Don't be alarmed. We just want to know that you're all right and get to know you a little bit more. As Danny mentioned, I am also a success advisor, so I may be talking to some of you sometime here, which would be very exciting. So finally, let's wrap all this up and talk about what we're going to do now. So we're going to review the course. So log into the class, get to know the calendar, get to know the format, get to know where to go if you need help. Create that time management plan. That is definitely a key. I cannot stress that enough. Make sure that you're completing all your assignments, including those threaded discussions. So the discussions are a large part of the online world. So you need to make sure that you're participating in those discussions, putting your initial thread in, and then also replying back to classmates as well to make sure it's an engaged discussion. As I mentioned, get to know your advisors, your support staff, your professors. We all want to make sure that you know that we're here to help you. So we want to know you. Introduce yourself. Don't be afraid to be that first person to say hello. As we mentioned, participate in your Module 1 threaded discussion. I would suggest doing that by Wednesday. So that's 2 days from now. I'm giving everybody on this webinar a piece of homework. Make sure you go in and you do your discussion by Wednesday. You can be that first person that starts the thread and really get that classroom going and get that energy going inside that class. That is definitely something that you want to do. And then finally, be proactive. If you do know that something is going to happen or something in terms of the future, you have a birthday or a holiday or something like that, there's an issue coming up, let us know what we can do. Be proactive. Reach out and let your advisors, your professors know that you are having some issues, and we can figure out what we can do to help overcome those issues. That's what we're here for. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Dr. Delgiero. He's going to talk a little bit more about some of those tips we talked about with academic writing. So Dr. Delgiero, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Great information as always. One of the best that we have here at Trident. So thank you, Michael. On behalf of the faculty, I just want to extend my warmest welcomes to all of you. It's always the most exciting time of the month for us to welcome in a brand new crop of leaders into the Trident family. And so we all look forward to interacting with you, getting to know you, and seeing what great things you accomplish in and out of the classroom. So this section focuses on academic writing. It's one of the points of concern for some students, especially who have been out for a while. It causes some anxiety, and so the goal of these next couple slides are just to relieve some of that anxiety and give you some direction to build momentum. So Michael mentioned it, but these first couple of days, it's going to be really imperative for you to get the wheels going. And so I hope to provide a broad overview of what your faculty will expect of you with writing and to relieve some of that anxiety for you. This first slide is it's meant to frame your mindset for what the expectations are within academic writing and why and how is it different from what you might be used to within your military experience or business experience. So the three key differences that I want you to think about between business and / military and academic writing are the goals of writing, the process of writing, and voice. And so when you're in the military, so the first one is the goals of writing. If you're going to graduate from an accredited institution, you're expected to have a high degree of written and oral communication skills. And so that is kind of what we're helping prepare you for upon graduation. So the first point that I want you to think about is the goal of writing. So when you're in a business environment and when you're in a military environment, your goal of writing, the only purpose you're writing is for mission accomplishment and to accomplish objectives. The difference within what you're going to find in an academic environment is that the goal of writing is to help you become a better communicator. And so there are some steps and some areas that we look for as your faculty to help you become a better thinker and to help you become a better writer, a more effective writer. So for example, within the military and in business, you're writing to accomplish this objective as quickly and efficiently as possible. And when you're in your academic classes, we're looking for your logic and rational thought development of your ideas. So sometimes this comes out when you're answering questions as maybe a 1 to 2 sentence or a 1 to 3 sentence reply to answer a question, because you're in that mindset of answering the question and giving the conclusion as quickly and efficiently as possible. But that's not the only thing. That's actually not the most important thing that your faculty is looking for. It's not really what we're looking for. We're looking for the reasons why and how you came to those conclusions, your critical thinking skills, and your logic and your rational thought development. And so that takes more time and it takes more effort to lay out those arguments and to do the research from different sources and integrate the background readings into your experience to support your conclusion. So your faculty member is not just looking for the answer. We're not just looking for the conclusion. We're looking for your reasons why, the thinking and the evidence behind it, and your logic and your rational thought development. The second area of that's a challenge or the difference between military and business writing versus academic writing is the process of writing. So when you're in a business environment or you're in a military environment, your superior would give you a command or an objective to write up a memo or write this up or write that up, do a report. You pass it off to your superior edits it, adds a couple things, passes it off to their superior, and before a decision is made, there's 2 or 3 hands that have touched this document. That's different than what you're going to find here and what your experience will be in an academic environment, because you are the single author of this document, of this assignment. So you have to go through the brainstorming. You have to go through the outlining and the editing and the drafting and the formatting, and all those things take time. And so you have to consider those elements when you develop your time management plan for these classes. The third key difference is voice. So if you haven't noticed, especially in the military, you're big on uniforms. I mean, you're dressing the same, you're often talking the same, and sometimes that comes out in your writing. That comes out in your writing, and so that causes some issues because it raises some concerns for academic integrity issues. So we want you to be aware of that. Your instructor will be looking for your independent understanding of these concepts. And so we're looking for you to paraphrase different ideas from a variety of different readings and background sources. We're looking for you to summarize some of these ideas in your own words. So quotations are great, but your instructor will care more about your understanding of these concepts. And that is different than stripping out a quotation and sticking it in your paper. It's fundamentally different, and it takes a lot more critical thinking and a lot more time and effort to summarize these different ideas in your own words and put them in. But that is what your instructor is looking for. And if you consider these things, you will reap the benefits of this program upon graduation, and I promise you will become a more effective communicator and contributor to your organizations. The next slide is just meant to give you a general overview of academic writing structure. And so this is not an all-inclusive slide. These are just some tips that as an instructor, I see students kind of missing these points. And so as a writer that you may not have as much experience in an academic environment, or maybe you've been out for a while, I hope that this gives you some direction to get the wheels going and build up that momentum early on. And so there are more resources, more in-depth resources like the ones that Michael mentioned within the Writing Center and our resources drop down. So please make use of that. But here I just want to frame your mind into what we're looking for in terms of structure and content. So there's basically going to be three main parts of your essay: the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. And so your introduction is kind of like any presentation you may give, like a PowerPoint presentation. You always have a first slide that tells your audience what you're going to be talking about and why it's important. And so that's your introduction paragraph. You're just going to be basically presenting an overview of what you're going to be talking about and why it's important. So I want you to think about this, because there's an important statement in your introduction that your instructors look for, and it's called a thesis statement. Essentially, this tells your reader what the purpose is of your essay. And so a great way for you to know what your instructor is looking for is to look at the module learning outcomes. So every module, you have 4 modules. Every module will have learning outcomes on the home page. So every module will have learning outcomes for every assignment on the home page. That is basically what your instructor is looking for, and that is what your instructor will be looking for or measuring your understanding of those concepts. And those are great statements to put into your introduction paragraph, and to help ground you when you're answering these questions. So in addition to the learning outcomes, your assignments will have like 3 or 4 questions that you have to answer. Use those learning outcomes as like the lenses to view those questions. So address the learning outcomes through answering the questions. So consider that with your thesis statement development, and definitely make use of those module learning outcomes, because they give you what your instructor is looking for on each assignment. From there, you got your body paragraphs. And so the best recommendations I could give you when you're first getting going in your writing is to break up those questions into sections and subsections using headers and subheaders. So just like on a PowerPoint presentation, you have headers that tell your reader or tell your audience what this slide is about. Same thing within your essay. Include a header, include subsections within that make it overtly obvious to your instructor that you are addressing this part of the assignment. This is the key term that you're going to be addressing. So not only does it provide some structure for you for your essay, but it also makes it very obvious for your instructor that you are hitting all those points within your assignment. And so again, going back to the content of your assignment, is your instructor looking for the conclusion? Yeah, sure, we're looking for your answer to the question, but again, we're looking for the reasons why. And so when you draft your paragraphs, I kind of want you to think about aiming for about 4 to 7 sentences. Trust me, nobody's going to be counting your sentences out, but I think it's a good guideline for you, because if you're going below that 4-sentence mark, then you're probably being a little bit too brief or concise, and you're not exploring the topics or discussing the topics in detail. So make sure you're going back and citing some evidence from your background readings. Again, we're looking for APA citations and some evidence, some objective research and evidence to support your conclusions. And if you're going above that 7-sentence mark, then you're probably rambling on too much, or you could make that into a more concise structure to better highlight your ideas, or you just need to break up that longer paragraph into some more paragraphs, into maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs. But you don't want to go on and on a page and a half of text, of block text. You really want to break that up into small sections and subsections, include those headers, and make it really easy for your instructor to pick out those main points. If you're struggling, again, I talked about the thesis statements above, but if you're struggling in terms of how to start a paragraph and what your instructor is looking for, I always mention these points right here. Define the key term, explain the application of the key term to the assignment, and then discuss why the concept is important to either the module learning outcome or just the class in general, specifically and with specific focus to the module learning outcome. So those 3 points, I think if you cover those, that should get you to that 4 to 7 mark. Include some evidence in there to support your ideas, and that's a great way of just getting started. This is not going to be the perfect way. I can promise you that your instructor will give you feedback, but it's really important for you to take that feedback and then just continue to build upon it. Your instructor is not looking for perfection. In fact, you shouldn't expect that of your instructor. We're here to make you better communicators and better critical thinkers. That's our value. That's our objective. And so when you explore these concepts in a variety of different ways by defining and explaining and discussing the value of these concepts, you're in essence exploring these concepts from a variety of different ways, and you're thinking about them in different ways. So consider that when you're drafting up your assignments. And then the conclusion paragraph is the last part of your assignment, and it really just reflects. It's just kind of like a reflection of your introduction. Your introduction is telling your audience what you're going to be talking about, why it's important, and your conclusion is going to be basically stating what you already have talked about and why that's important. And so they're mirror images of each other. Again, this is not an all-inclusive. These are not all-inclusive suggestions. It's just simply to get the wheels going, and over time you're going to receive more detailed feedback from your instructor to become a better written communicator, a better writer. And so I just highly suggest that you accept that feedback, and with willing and open arms. So I hope that helps. Again, refer back to the resources under the writing resources under the resources tab if you need some more in-depth advice. Always reach out to your instructor, because we love hearing from you and we love to support you in this process. Honestly, it is our honor to serve you. So please make use of us. And with that, I am going to transition back to Daniel Sloan to talk about some career networking.
Thank you, Dr. Delgiero. We also have resources to help students outside of the classroom. First, I want to talk about Alumni Fire, which is for all current students, not just Trident alumni. The URL is currently on your screen, and this is a great place where you can go to connect with other students, alumni, faculty, and staff to get advice on your education, career, and even just a network. Reach out to alumni at trident.edu if you have any questions. There you can talk with our Director of Alumni Engagement, Kendra Temple. We also have Career One Stop, which is a source for career skills development like resume reviews, interview practice, and more. This can be accessed on the front page of the student portal. Just after you log in, go all the way down to the bottom and to the left, you'll find it there. If you have any questions about using this resource, you can reach out to James Shiver, who's our Career Center Manager. And his email is trident4careers@trident.edu. That's the number 4 careers. So we're going to move into the Q&A session, and we'll be joined by Professor Dr. Delgiero. And right on cue on the screen, Michael Minnaugh and Toni Ahnert. So, welcome everyone.
Hi.
Yeah. So good. I can hear everyone. I got a little worried when someone mentioned they couldn't hear me, and I'm like, am I on mute or something? Because we all do that at least once during the day. It seems, especially since a lot of us have start working from home. I hear happen or see it happen at least once a day. But so, how's everyone doing? Ready for some questions from the audience?
Oh yeah, born for this.
Absolutely.
Dan. Great. So Toni, you are up first. So
All right,
question, great.
Yeah, go ahead.
Question for you, Toni, is let's see here. Under our modules where it says reflection, is this a question for us to answer ourselves, or is it something that we post in the thread discussion?
It's actually something that you post in the thread discussion. So if you are in your TUX 101, 301, or your CMB, the professor actually gives you a reflection. So in the TUX, for example, in your discussion for the incredible story of Holly, the reflection is like, what is your passions and your accomplishments? So it wants you to reflect, because I actually was speaking to one of my students this afternoon, Melissa. She's actually on our webinar. I had her sign up. She had trouble getting started. So it's just to help you get started, and so it's a little less scary.
Okay. Great, thank you for that. And Michael, anything to add, since I know you do instruct TUX 101?
Yeah, I mean, the reflection is a great opportunity for you to provide feedback. So what you've learned throughout the entire course, typically the reflective discussion is in module 4 as an additional discussion. So you have 2 discussions in your last module, typically in every single class, at least in the undergraduate level. And yeah, like I said, it's a great opportunity for you to provide feedback and also to describe the things that you've learned that you're going to build upon in your next class. So if it is that TUX 101 class, this is your first class for those who are starting today. So think of where you are today and then where you're going to end up in the next 8 weeks. And you can think about those, things that you're going to learn throughout the next 2 months, and then you're going to build upon that. So in the reflective discussion, it's a great chance for you to just take stock. I mean, you're getting towards the end of the year. It's what you kind of do now anyway, right? A lot of people start thinking about the year. So you're going to have that throughout every course, and you're going to think back to what you learned, and then how you can implement that moving forward in your next courses. So I think it's a great opportunity that we offer that I did not have as an undergrad or a master's student, to kind of think back on what I learned. It was always on to the next thing, on to the next thing. So I think it's a great opportunity for students.
Great, thank you. And next question, Dr. Delgiero, do students have an opportunity to get a review on a paper or an assignment before the due date?
Absolutely. Well, you definitely have that flexibility to submit your assignments early. I would recommend that you reach out to your instructor if you are interested in that feedback. My personal recommendation, or my personal preference is as an instructor, is to have students just submit what they have to me within the Dropbox, and then I can provide that feedback and give them an opportunity to resubmit. That's my personal preference, but be sure to reach out to every instructor you have, as they may have different preferences. So you do have that flexibility, and I strongly recommend that you reach out to them if you are interested in that feedback.
Okay, great, thank you. Next question. I'm going to send this one to you, Michael, just so we can get everyone in the mix here. But when do students get a student success advisor?
So you have a student success advisor assigned to you essentially from the moment that you sign up. There is a formal handoff from your admissions advisor to your student success advisor that typically takes place after the first module is completed. So for students starting today, that would happen 3 weeks from now, because you have an extra week in this course. So just, we didn't mention that earlier. Keep that in mind. The week from the 21st to the 27th is an additional built-in week in this session specifically only. So that formal transition will take place the first week of January, right? January 4th would be that formal transition. You can definitely reach out early. They may have been already calling you just to say hello and introduce themselves. I know that I do that with my students earlier, just to kind of build that relationship as soon as possible. But you'll get an email from your success advisor that January 4th. It will happen automatically. just saying, hey, we're moving things over to, this is your main point of contact for any questions that you have regarding coursework moving forward. So the admissions advisor kind of has that formal transition there. It'll be January 4th for students beginning today.
Okay, great. Thanks. And this question wasn't asked, but I think it's an important discussion point. I'm going to go around to each one of you and ask you this, but given the uniqueness of this of the session with the extra week, how can students be using that extra time to their advantage? I'm going to start with you, Toni, then go to Dr. Delgiero.
I think I was talking to a few of my students again, kind of really taking advantage of the time and working ahead in your modules. So starting on module 1, letting them know what the topics are, and then actually showing them module 2 so that they can start working ahead and making it a little less scary, but also saying, hey, you know what, you have that time. Why don't you utilize it? Like, what's your plan for next week during our break? How often you can get in there. I think that's kind of essential for us as advisors with our student relationship. And you as students, you know, you can always reach out to us. I mean, that's what we're here for. You know, we can call you every day. That's part of our success, is seeing you graduate, not just, you know, have this first class, but seeing you all the way through.
And Dr. Delgiero?
I'll hop in right now, yeah. So that's great advice, is to continue that momentum. One of the things that you'll find, if you haven't already experienced this in some other way, some other part of your life, is keeping momentum. So the moment you kind of stop looking at your class, that's when it just gets harder and harder to get back on the train. Like, you may even experience this with like working out or dieting. You know, the moment you stop, it's just harder to get back on the train and build that momentum. So Toni gives some great advice there with just keeping the momentum going. I would also strongly encourage you to just double down, maybe that first part of the week, and then give yourself that second part of the week to enjoy with family and have some balance in your life. But those are all great ways of making use of that extra week.
I would jump in, and so part of me is like, that extra week, that's when I am personally going to be doing Christmas shopping. So you can use that, which is great. But I think that this is all great advice. I talked about it earlier in the presentation about time management. You have an extra week to kind of build that plan out. So, and this is really going to be the time where you're going to get tested, because holidays are coming up a week from Friday. So if there is any time where you want to try to build that momentum, try to get your work done this week by Sunday. You have a 2-week module. Typically, this is a 3-week module. Why don't you take some time to have that balance Dr. Delgiero mentioned, and get your work done by Sunday of this week. So then you have, the week of Christmas, the week of New Year's, to yourselves with your family. So this is really a good time for you to start that momentum, and just build that time management plan, and also have that balance, because that extra week is there. So hopefully that will detract from any sort of, this is all new, I'm trying to find my way around, this is a new experience. That can be daunting. So that extra week can help relieve some of that stress and that burden. So yeah, I would develop that plan. I would get in there, and I would try to submit assignments this week, and then I would do Christmas shopping next week. That's what I would do.
One of the things we often get, one of the questions we often get is, can we submit assignments ahead of time? So if we're in module 1, can we submit module 2? And the answer to that is yes, you have that flexibility. Again, that's one of the strengths of the Trident program is that flexibility. The only thing I would caution you on is to reach out to your instructor so that you can have that feedback from module 1 before you submit module 2. So one of our pet peeves is seeing the same mistakes over and over again, like no one's even reading our feedback, put in all this effort to help you out, and then it's like, it's like it's not read. So make sure you address that feedback in your upcoming assignments if you want to get ahead and start working on the upcoming assignments, the upcoming modules.
Thank you for mentioning that. I like that feedback, because we tell our students, you know, once you're done with module 1, start working on module 2. But you know, I think I will tell my students, like, wait for your feedback from your instructor and then move on so you can see how to improve. Thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, and I'd say you can still work on your assignments, but wait to submit that next assignment before feedback. You know, that way you can that way you're still working on it, and then you can incorporate certain things, you know, and add to what you already have.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, and to cap off on the wave of advice here, one of the things that I think is important, whether it's in school or life or work or whatever, is that if you have, you know, say X number of weeks, and then you have a situation where it's X plus 1 number of weeks, don't view that plus 1 as like, oh, well, I'll have you know, a little half time or a siesta or whatever. It's you know, use it to get ahead and get the hard stuff out of the way early, and because you'll feel much better if you're approaching your sessions in a way where you get the tough stuff out of the way early, the hard work out, so you can not coast to the end, but so things are a bit easier, because no one likes that stress that comes with procrastination.
Yeah.
So moving on to the next question. This one's for you, Michael. Coming from a military community, there are so many acronyms used, and knowing them is always important for understanding. That's a very true statement. And question is, what does TUX stand for?
It's the Trident University Experience. That is TUX.
And I'm sure a lot of people think that, but I think first time we've gotten a question on that. So thank you for asking that. And next question I have for you. And Toni, how many threaded discussion posts are required each week?
So you have your initial post, and then you have to respond to 2 other individuals on 2 separate days.
So I'd love to back off of this. So yeah, sure, that's the minimum. But what I recommend, being an instructor in these classes, is to again, thinking momentum, is to post it like once every other day. Like if you can set a goal for at least twice a week, you know, once on Monday, once on Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever it is, and respond to at least 1 to 2 people each time, then you're setting yourself up for success, because what your instructor is going to be looking for, it's not enough to, I mean, if you want to see on your discussion, then yeah, go ahead, do your minimum 2 posts. But you're risking not answering those questions fully, and you're risking not only just getting the most out of the class, but your grade, you're losing out on opportunities to score additional points and to dig deeper into those assignments, because your instructor is going to be looking at the number of responses, but more so importantly, we're going to be looking for the quality of those responses. And if you're falling off a little short, especially during these first couple weeks of the module, your instructor is going to be popping in and asking these follow-up questions, which is giving you opportunities to score more points and saying, hey, let me dive deeper in certain ways. And that's what we're looking for, to maximize the amount of points that you have. So yes, you have your 1 original post and your 2 required discussion, replies to students, but shoot, raise the bar if you want to earn the maximum amount of points in the class. And believe me, those discussions it's 20% of your grade, so it can make or break your overall grade. Don't think that you're posting on Facebook on these discussions and call it a day. Really put in that effort, think through it, and visit the discussions at least twice a week. I mean, that's what I try and do. At least 3 times a week for me. Every other day, I'm hopping in, trying to give my students opportunities to score more points by thinking in different ways about the topics. So just something to consider.
I would also add that the discussion is a great place for you to meet your classmates that are going through and learning similar topics. So as an advisor, I know that I've had students that have, met have similar classes, and then you take classes together, you kind of become study buddies. So you're going to start seeing similar names over and over as you get to the end of your program. So it's a good time to meet the people in your classes, and then also to see what they have to say in reply to you, to get you to think about what your main points are, and maybe in a different way that you hadn't thought about besides just your professor. You can learn a lot from your classmates too. So it's really important to get in there and be as active as possible.
So can I kind of answer, because obviously, as admission advisors and as some of our students who have signed up for the webcam, our job is to, call you guys on the first day and really make sure that you guys are prepared to go into the first day of class, because it's a little bit different than orientation. And our students tell us, they have a little more anxiety going into the class than they did the orientation. Because like you mentioned in one of your slides, I think it was Michael or George, but you mentioned it was Michael, that, in orientation, you can't mess up. Like you can post as much as you want and you can mispost. But a lot of the students feel that have that anxiety, like, am I posting right? Am I doing something, or I don't want to mess up until I post. And so with our discussion questions, we have them try to post that first initial discussion question today to get them out of that anxiety moment, to say, look, you guys can do it. So would you recommend them, doing it on the first day and then maybe following up on Wednesday or Thursday, Thursday or Friday, and having them, walking them through that second post with them?
I'll hop in there. Absolutely. Yes. Build that momentum. Post. Do your best. Do the best you can on the first day. Get your discussions in. And again, I think I mentioned it in my presentation. No one's expecting perfection, especially in these first few classes that you're in. Yet we know where you're at within your student life cycle. You're still getting the lay of the land. But after you get through that first class, this is going to start to become second nature. So get the wheels going, do the best you can. I kind of highlighted, some structural things, like 4 to 7 sentences for your paragraphs. Try and integrate that within your discussion as well. Like, include some in-text citations. Always helps us, especially when you get into your later classes. So yes, please get that momentum going, submit the discussion, do the best you can, and then revisit again for additional posts to really give yourself the opportunity to score some extra points.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for that. And with threaded discussions, I would recommend writing them in a Word file too, because it kind of gets you into the mindset. Word, writing in Word, it feels a bit more serious versus just writing it online. I don't know what it is, but at least for me, that's the way it works. And that way, it gives you more of an opportunity to kind of control what you write, and after you're happy with it, copy, paste, and post. So moving on to the next question, and actually this looks to be our last question. I'm going to start with you, Toni. How do classes work? Put more simply, is the schedule flexible, or do we have webinars and/or live sessions like this every week?
No, we don't have live sessions. The way the class is structured is you're going to do that one class for 8 weeks and then the 2 classes for 8 weeks. Now, the flexibility comes after you speak with your student success advisor. I know a lot of military students out here, a lot of students who are really anxious at wanting to finish their degree program. So really partner with your student success advisor about doubling up and seeing if that's an option, but there's not really live webinars. But again, you have a whole Trident team. You have a whole family. I actually call it a family. You have a whole family that really supports you. So if you are ever in need of speaking to us or pick up the phone, call, your admissions, call finance, call your student success advisor. I know you guys, I've heard wonderful things as you as professors just being available for our students. Like when my students email you guys, you always respond within 24 hours. I've never gotten any other feedback. So reach out to these professors. Like they are willing to help you. They want to see you succeed just as much as we want to see you succeed. So.
I would jump in. Yeah, we are very, very flexible. Very, very flexible. In terms of the courses, there's not going to be any other live webinars like this. This is a first day of class webinar, so you don't have to sit and listen to a lecture at a certain time. That's the beauty of it. In terms of generally speaking, the courses that you have to take, some programs have a sequenced order that you have to take them in a certain order. Others do not. So what Toni had mentioned, to get with your success advisor, and you can talk about your specific program and what courses you have to take in what order. So it really is going to depend on a lot of factors. So that is something you definitely want to reach out to with your success advisor about what classes in what order. But in terms of when you have to go to class, that is something that is up to you. So that is the beauty of the online world and Trident. It's very, very flexible. We can work with you as much as we possibly can with your schedule. We know that we have a lot of military that are deploying and they have a lot of things going on. So we are here to support you. To echo what Toni said, just reach out to your professors if that's something that's happening. We want you to know that we're here for you and we want you to succeed. So definitely flexibility is one of the names of the game at Trident. Dr. Delgiero.
Yes, I think one moment. I've got an alarm going off in my room.
I'm surprised he doesn't just say, Alexa, stop. Or Google.
Quarantining. This is like instruction during quarantine right now. Yeah, one other question that we get is, do you do the case assignment first or the SLP assignment first or the discussion? You have that flexibility, again, depending on how you are best motivated. So definitely recommend hopping in that discussion because it's an easy way of just building the momentum, and you check that first initial post off. From there, you have that flexibility of doing the SLP or the case assignment first. You really don't, more times often than not, you do have that flexibility. On rare occasions, you might have a class where you'll need to do the SLP first or the case assignment first. More times often than not, you do have that flexibility of working on either assignment, however you choose. Note that the case assignment is worth 50 points. That's like almost half of your grade. So you want to put in the most amount of time and effort into those assignments. Your SLPs are worth 30% of your grade. Those are worth 30 points. So what I like to do, and they're typically much smaller assignments. So what I used to do when I was a student here was hop in, do the discussion, work on the SLP, and try and get that done the first week. Michael gave a great recommendation and pacing yourself out and just trying to knock it all out on this week. But you set your priorities in that way. Those SLPs are smaller, which I typically like to tackle first and get through them because they're quicker. And all of a sudden, I'm starting to build some confidence now and some energy to just steamroll into my case assignment. So that's how I work. But I know some students want to pump out that case assignment first, get that under the belt because it's the more important assignment because it weighs heavier on your grade. So you have that flexibility. So I just wanted to plug that as well.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for the advice and the help. Thank you, everyone, for the questions. And those questions we haven't answered, we will follow up with you after the webinar and address your questions individually. And I do want to say this point because I know Dr. Delgiero mentions this a lot, but I don't want to go without mentioning it. But we do have a survey that pops up after the webinar ends. Please make sure to answer that. If You think back to earlier in the webinar, the writing section. That writing section was not always part of this webinar. We noticed over time that people were looking for a lot of questions, more assistance with writing, and due to people's feedback, we added that. So that's a long way of saying we take your feedback seriously. So please give us feedback, and we will look at it and we'll respond. So with that, I'm going to hand things off to Toni, who's going to cap off today's webinar with a student success story. Thank you, everyone. Good luck this session.
Good luck.
Oh, okay. So my student success story is actually she enrolled in the October session. When she first called in, she really didn't have like a computer. Her name was Minnaugh, and she had tried online, and kind of life had got in the way. And so she was really, really skeptical about starting. She just felt like she wasn't gonna start. She was in the CMB program. She knew she had to get a better job for her kids and for her life, and COVID had really hit her hard. So she wrote in, and actually she wrote to my boss, and she said, I just want to appreciate and thank Toni for her dedication and hard work, and for motivating me, but for more importantly, for believing in myself that I can do it. And so she said that this is the first school that she's been in. I check in with her periodically, but she said this is the first school she's been at where she's actually felt that the professors care about her, that the school cares about her, and that she wasn't just another student being enrolled into an online university, that it was just a blanket face. She said that she is encouraged every day by her student success advisors, and when she feels like she can't be successful in her third class, they keep telling her to keep going. Her kids have finally rallied behind her and have gotten her a laptop for Christmas. She was able to go to libraries and borrow laptops during her journey, but that she feels that she has been part of our Trident family. So she tells others to come to Trident, and that she finally believes in herself. So that was my student.
Great. Thank you for that, Toni. And good luck everyone this session, and look forward to seeing you at graduation.
Yes, thank you.